Recording now.
Okay, well, hello everybody. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. So welcome to week 3. Similar format to last week, we're going to be hearing from those of you who've been doing your peer reviews this week and talk about where you are, any issues you've had with the peer review process, and we'll be looking ahead to week 4 as well and seeing what we're going to be doing towards the submission of your creative project. And as always, Reda and other members of the course team this morning will be on hand to help with any technical issues as well, in case you're experiencing any. So where are we this week? Well, hopefully you'll be at the stage that you will have either completed or be in the process of completing your peer reviews, which were sent to you at the start of the week. And this slide here is just based on some feedback that we have received from some participants in terms of where they are. So previous participants have said that they've identified it's going to be a hectic week for me. In some cases they have a lot of catching up to do, but there is still time. So if you haven't started your peer review yet and you're watching this recording later on and you're wondering where you are and what you should be doing, it's absolutely fine. You can still catch up. There's time yet to submit your peer reviews. We also heard from some participants that this has been a very positive learning experience for them so far, reading about different incidents that happen around the world in this forum and the experiences and professionalism of other people, and that's exactly what we're seeking to capture through this exercise. And I hope you share in the last sentiment that we're all looking forward to learning more, and certainly for us on the course team it's been great reading the different reviews and the different creative projects as they've been coming in. So just for the next few minutes then we'll focus on the reviews themselves, and we're going to try and identify some common issues and see if we can help correct those. Okay, so first up, what's wrong with this review? So I'll give you a moment just to have a quick look at the screen here. So hopefully this is familiar to you now from the parts 1, 2 and 3 on Scholar. So I'll have a quick read of the text there. So this person has provided some useful text-based feedback, but you will notice at the top there is no rating that has been assigned. So it's important to give constructive text feedback, but also we need you to fill in the text component at the top there as well. So you can see this is graded 0 out of 4. So one of the pitfalls, if you like, of using this, particularly if you're using the arrow or the cursor keys to navigate, is even if you do select them and then tap down or left, you can then change what you've selected already. And I gather, Uzi, I think you mentioned in the discussion group this morning, just before we started, that you may have done this. I think I saw a post from you before as well. So it's easy to do. Unfortunately, once you've submitted it and you've assigned the rating, and I'll show you the next slide here, it's this bar that you move left and right to indicate which grading that you're giving, which rating you're giving for each section. So if you forget to do it, it stays at 0, or if you accidentally tap a key when it's selected, if you use your pointer to select it, then tap a key afterwards, it's possible to knock it back down again. So please, just as a word of warning, if you haven't submitted already, please try and be careful not to do this. If you do, and you've submitted it, unfortunately, there's not a way of undoing it. But to be honest, it won't be the end of the world. I think people will realize if you've given them 0 for everything, that probably wasn't what you intended. And also, please be not overly harsh with the rating as well. It's not a formal score. It doesn't really mean anything other than it's a bit of formative feedback for the person who's completed it. But there is a tutorial on how to do this as well if you're still not entirely sure. The week 3, day 1 and day 2 updates give you a pointer in the right direction, and there's a very nice video that explains how to do the feedback. So if you haven't started yet and you're not sure what to do, then just go to the updates page and it will tell you. But just a quick heads up for that, because I know that's a common issue. Okay then, so what we need to cover in this session is the checklist for week 3. we'll cover what happens if you miss the Friday deadline, what happens for the final week of the exercise, and then we're going to move on to the peer review session. And as in previous weeks, we're going to hand over to you guys and give you a few minutes just to tell us about the peer reviews you've done and the feedback you've given and any other issues. So where you should be at this week is you should have reviewed the updates from the course team, as you've been doing frequently anyway. So there's always an update each day of the week to check out and have a look at. You will have been sent a peer review notification, which you will hopefully have accepted, and then made a start on your peer review. Ideally, please set aside some time to do them. Every time we've run this exercise, we always have somebody who does them in sort of 10 minutes on Monday morning and then submits and says, right, what next? But we would like you to try and take some time over them if you're able to do so, because it really benefits those who spent time writing them. Have a reflect on it and then try and give some constructive feedback. As we've just discussed, once you've reviewed the case study assigned, if you can give them the rating and then a text-based explanation. And we'd like, if possible, for you to go beyond just writing good, bad, indifferent underneath, but actually say what you think you would like to know, and really as if you were talking to the person directly who's written it. How can I improve this? What don't you understand about it? What's good about it as well, and try and make it as constructive as possible rather than just a couple of words, because if you get feedback, as I did on one when I did the first exercise, and all someone had written was 2 or 3 words for each section, and it was very hard then to know why they felt it was good or it wasn't good. So a little bit of explanation there is really helpful. Okay, and then once you've done that and added any annotations, if you wish to add any, then you can do so within the text itself. But it's not a requirement as long as you've given us some sort of feedback. Then you need to submit each one in turn, and then once that's done, they will then go back to the original authors, and then they will gain your feedback and they'll be able to work on them from next week. So that's really what we need to do by the end of week 3. What happens if you miss the deadline? So the deadline is, as always, on Friday. So for those people who missed the week 2 deadline, then they weren't invited to peer review. There were a couple of slightly late submissions which you managed to squeeze in, which was really good. So we will have already lost some people who unfortunately weren't able or willing to submit their case study. And the same thing happens this week, but with an added complication. If you don't complete the 3 peer reviews this week, and I realise the audience who are live this morning, I don't think that applies to anybody, but for anyone watching this later on, not only are you removing yourself from the course, but you're causing difficulty for your colleagues as well, because if someone's waiting for your feedback and you don't submit it, then this creates an issue in that they won't have feedback, or they'll have a reduced amount of feedback from someone else, and they'll miss out on your valuable input. And one of the really useful aspects of this exercise is that we're gaining reviews and insight from our colleagues from all over the world, and it's really valuable in terms of producing something constructive and positive at the end of this. So, not wanting to emotionally manipulate anybody, but it is the rest of the community here are depending on you. So please, if you haven't set aside time before Friday, please try and get this done. And thank you very much to all of those who have already, and I know those of you who are planning to do so. Okay then, so before we move on to talking a bit about the breakdown of the different parts and the type of feedback, let's look at what's next for week 4. Okay, so you will receive your week 3 feedback, and you'll be able to read through that and have a look at it. And having done that, we'd encourage you to reflect on what changes are needed. You may disagree with the feedback, that's fine. You don't have to change your assignment based on the feedback you've been given, but we would encourage you to think about, if somebody's sought to give you feedback, why they've done it. If someone has commented on something and you think it's incorrect, it may just be that it's not clear and you haven't explained fully the situation or the background. So it's up to you what changes you make. You can completely rewrite it, or you can change one or two small parts. It's entirely up to you. It's your project. But do reflect on the feedback you've been given. Hopefully it's been constructive. In some cases, sometimes the feedback has been very direct. So please don't take this personally either. We have asked people to be honest and constructive in what they say, but equally we haven't wanted people to be overly critical. So please take the feedback in the spirit in which it's been given and reflect on whether you think it's fair or useful or not. So as always, schedule the time to make these changes. And then you need to request a review permission and submit the final case study by Friday the 29th, which is the final deadline for the course. So we've got the peer review deadline this Friday, and then the final submission of your revised project the following week. And Reda will say a little bit more about that, I think, at the end of the session. So once you've done that, and as always, please then contribute to the community dialogue. And in next week's session, we'll be talking about what happens next after the course, because it doesn't have to be an end of your involvement. And for those of you who've been dedicated and committed to this throughout, we very much hope that that this will continue beyond your involvement just in these couple of weeks. Okay, so there's a little bit here just on the rubric of the assignment that you were given in terms of the structure and presentation. So when you're giving feedback this week and when you're rewriting next week, please focus on the rubric, the outline that you were given. And if you're not sure what to say, then you just need to use these points. So I don't want to go through all of these in lots of detail because we want to move on and hear from you. But please do refer to the rubric, to the guideline, and it's available in the materials section here also. Just to reflect on whether the story is clear or not, how relevant it is it too long or too short, what's missing from it, and try and be very specific when you're giving feedback as to what's wrong with it, as I've mentioned already. For part one, there are specific questions that we've posed here about whether it's an obvious, if there are any obvious things missing from it that mean you can't understand it, is there enough information or not. For the second part, we're looking for a clear and simple summary about what the dilemmas were and what decisions had to be made. So if you're giving feedback, please also suggest what else you want to know, what's missing that you can't really understand. And for part three, again, do have a look at these questions as well and try and suggest ways in which you think it could be enhanced and strengthened and any other comments that you might have in order to transfer the lessons learned. Okay, so we're going to hand over to you now. So as always, we're going to ask for volunteers to, if possible, we would like some volunteers to present where they are at the moment, just in a couple of minutes. So if anyone is able to raise their hand or indicate in the chat that they would like to speak, and Uzi, I believe you are ready to go. So fantastic, we can hear from you. Okay, great. So great, thank you very much for joining us this morning, and I will just give you 3 minutes on here because I always forget to do this. Okay, off you go. Thank you. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Talk about my peer reviews. I want to think about our friends in Mexico City and on the Caribbean and in Florida that worked so hard, and they are still working now. And there is a MDA group that will go to Mexico City to help. And I think the course is important, but sometimes life is more important. This is my little few words for them, and yeah. I'm sure they work very hard.
Uzi, we actually just received a message from Carla Estevez, who's in Mexico City. Yeah. So she actually, despite the emergency, took the time and care to send us a message to say she can't come to this meeting this morning.
Really
An
great.
earthquake in Mexico City needs all of the paramedic crews reported, so I don't know if I'd be able to connect. Yes, I just wanted to share that message with the crew.
Okay, our heart is with her. Anyway, I was looking at 4 peer reviews. Unfortunately, I didn't rate the first 2 because I was a little bit doing it in the middle of another thing, so I didn't think about it. But on the other 2, I did rate. What I see, first of all, I see one walk was magnificent walk. According to the book, I give it 4 out of 4. It was really done fantastically. I don't remember the name of the person, but they really did a good job. There was another peer review that some doctor wrote, and it was absolutely without any real risk, or doing something like this. The one I worked on, a nurse from Nigeria, she actually didn't build the case study according to our instructions. So I asked her to take the story, which was a good story, but she didn't build it according to our rules, No, I don't give names. I just say who they are, There is a difference if the guy is a medic or is a doctor or she's a nurse. But overall, it's interesting. I have to sit and read it and see and try to give my notes and suggestions. And sometimes there is a lot to say, sometimes very little. So I'm doing that, and it's interesting. I think the peer review is what's really making you involved in these schools more than your project. Thank you. That's all.
That's great, Uzi. Thank you, and I'm sure we echo your thoughts at the beginning. So thank you for sharing those with us. And it's good to hear that you've had those completed. And yes, you did the same thing that I also did when I first did the project and didn't assign the ratings as well. So it's a dare I say, it's an easy mistake to make if you're not paying attention to it. So yes, I share your issue there. But thank you very much for doing that. And it's good to hear you've seen some really good things, and I'm sure you've given some constructive feedback as well. So I see we have Seth with us this morning as well, and it'll be good to hear from Lilach also. Seth, are you able to join us by audio? I don't know if you could indicate in the chat or not whether you're able to, because I can't seem to unmute you.
Michael, Seth has, I believe, did not. First of all, thank you for joining, Seth. I believe you haven't finished your project, or we haven't seen it submitted. So if you are having a technical issue, or if you're still trying to work on submitting your project, happy to help you at the half hour mark once this session is finished.
Right. Okay.
And if you're having difficulty, Seth, then it'd be good to hear from you as well. What the challenges, what you found difficult, and so we can see if we can help you at this stage. All right, but you can also. Okay, I was a bit busy during the week. I'm still trying to update the system. Okay, that's good to know. Thanks, Seth. And so if you submit late, you will receive peer reviews at that point and be able to progress with the course, and your colleagues, who you will review and give feedback to, I am sure will be grateful. Back to you, Mike.
Thanks. I see we've got Boon Halsoon joining us as well. Are you able to tell us how you're doing and whether you've submitted and you're doing peer reviews? because I think you have the audio connected, so maybe you can let us know how you're getting on if possible.
Yeah, so Boone is in the same situation as Seth. So again, I think it's really impressive that you are joining the session. You know, if you're making the effort to participate in this session, you know, Michael and I will definitely make whatever, you know, provide whatever support and help we can to make sure that you can finish your case study. It's not that complicated. It's 3 paragraphs you need to put together and submit, and then you can rejoin the peer review process. And again, you know, that will be very helpful to your colleagues. There's one more person, Michael, and Lilac has in fact completed all 3 peer reviews, so it would be interesting to hear from.
Yeah, I was about to say, Lilac, it'd be great to hear from you again. So can you let us know how you got on, please, and hello to you.
Hi, good morning. It's a holiday in Israel, so happy holiday and happy New Year. I got my peer review. I did all 3 of them. It was really the fun part. It's amazing to know people, atmosphere, how a medical team operates. Really, really interesting and fun to do. I had one problem. I got a story. It was really written well, but there was no risk, so I didn't know how to rate it. I don't know if the person who wrote it really did the assignment, if there is no risk, but she written about her country, and she don't have any hazard in her country. Police officers walk there without firearms, and they have no crime. So she said she had difficulty putting this assignment because she had no risk. So how would you answer this this thing?
Okay, Lilac, thank you. And I think you've raised the same issue that Uzi also brought up with one of the submissions as well, that it's a difficult area. And I know that Fred has commented on this in the past, so I'd like to invite him to unmute himself and join us if he can. Hi, good morning, Fred.
Hi, Michael. Thanks for the opportunity to comment. Yeah, I think it is indeed more difficult for those of our friends who are operating in very peaceful and secure contexts. But I live in Norway, and it's probably one of the most peaceful countries in the world. Yet there are still cases where paramedics are faced with violence, and it's not violence directed at them with weapons or explosives or from criminal gangs or others. It's often violence from a patient, often a patient that is drunk or under the influence of drugs, or a psychiatric patient. So how does the paramedic deal with this sort of interpersonal violence, or even threats? It doesn't have to be an actual physical assault, it can be a threat. So in Norway there are, at the regional level, not nationally, some tools and guidelines and trainings that are developed to dealing with these types of risks, and they're not unheard of. So maybe the person that did this project has not experienced such threats or assaults. That's great for that person, but it's not because you're in a peaceful context that you don't necessarily have experience with such risks.
Thank you, Fred. Yes.
Yeah,
ahead,
Michael, I've looked at the case that Lilac is referring to, and so it is a person from a country where, you know, he's never yet been really faced the threat of violence. So he actually contacted the course team and asked if he could write about a situation which involved violence, not directly to the ambulance crew, but which was, yes, in which he would explore the relationship, you know, the sort of relations with the police with respect to patients. So I was the one who said yes, and I just looked at Lilak's review, and I found it to be really fair. He did not select an incident that corresponded to the what is asked for the case study. Nevertheless, it's an interesting case, and Lilak, the rest of your review reflects that. So that would be my comment.
Thanks. It was nice to do it.
Yeah, so I guess to answer your question. Sorry, was that slight delay? I didn't mean to talk over you. Sorry, Lilak, go ahead.
It was nice to do it, and it was really interesting because there were a risk, but she wanted to avoid it. So I answered. I did my reply. I hope it fits, and it's a good one. Thank you.
And my thinking is also that this is unlike in previous exercises we had really large numbers of people writing in English who submitted and peer reviewed. Here we have a fairly small group, so that means I hope we can get to know each other through these weekly discussion groups this week and next week, and maybe and sort of lift anonymity a little bit once the feedback process is over. And if for those who are willing, that could make it a more productive discussion. If you're interested in learning more about the colleagues who wrote the case studies you're looking at, that could be one option. Usually we're not able to do that, but that might be one of the good things about having a smaller group.
Yeah, definitely. I think that really points to the value of the community as well, and the comments that Lilak and Uzi made actually in relation to how do I review this? It's difficult. Reflects the difficulty and the in this assignment for some people in making sure that they've done it correctly, and that's the whole purpose of the peer review process is for you to get that. That quick check from your colleagues, have I done what I was asked to do? And I know for some people it's a challenge to do that in their context, and we all obviously want to write good feedback. And Lilak, it sounds like you've done that really nicely. So thank you for taking the time. I know it's not easy always to do it. So.
And just for Seth and Boone, who've shown their commitment, by participating in this weekly discussion group, I just checked. So Seth, you posted a day one update, I believe, and you've started your creator project. So really, you need to take it from here and actually write up the incident, tell us about your context, and then tell us what matters about that context, and then hit this submit for review button. Boone, looking at your progress, it seems that you did not post a day one update, in which you just select an incident and summarize what happened. So that would be your first task. And if you want to, if you're not clear how to do that, let me give you the link to the to actually get started with that. I've shared the link which you can use to actually see all of the updates from the course team. And now, so for Boone, this is what you want, and then for both of you, I'll share the link to the case study assignment, which fits on one page. So basically what you need to do is to go into Creator and then answer all the questions, or at least some of them that are in this case study assignment, and then hit submit for review, and you can still catch up and be part of this this group that is getting to look at the works of colleagues and giving and receiving feedback. I hope that's helpful. Boone and Seth, can you confirm if you feel if you're gonna make a try, just make an attempt to at catching up? We'll support you and happy to follow up after this session. if that can be helpful. If you could type into the chat, because even if your microphone is not working.
Okay, I can see Seth is just saying thanks very much, and he's got to leave for work. It's an emergency, but he's going to update tomorrow, so thank you very much. Seth,
I didn't see that, sorry. Yeah. And Boone, how about you? You basically have two things to catch up on. One is to just select an incident in which you faced violence or the threat of violence, and two is, add a little bit more detail as to where you work and what you think of what happened to you and what it means for you, your team, your organization. Are you able to hear? It seems like you're no longer looking at the go-to training session, which is one of the features we have as admins, but that we try not to use. Okay, so anyway, we can follow up, and do reach out to us if you want to catch up.
Yeah, and I would just add, Reda, as well, anyone watching the recording of this, if you're in a similar position and you're a bit lost and trying to catch up, please get in touch with us on the WhatsApp group, or as on the screen here, you can email ambulance@Learning Foundation, or go to the discussion group, and whatever means you want to use, please get in touch and we'll help you from wherever you are. Okay, so we're just past the half-hour mark now. So usually I think we will end the session formally there, but if anyone has any technical issues that they'd like to discuss, I'm sure we can. I say we, I mean Reda really, Reda really be helping, but does anyone have any other questions or comments or issues they'd like to raise at this point?
I just want to say that if anybody is willing to go to Mexico to help, it will be very helpful, because we are all very experienced medics, but it's not depend on us. So now we have a Jewish New Year, so Happy New Year to all of you, and take care, and see you next week.
Thanks, Uzi. Happy New Year to you as well, and yes, we'll see you in the week 4 group and online before then, no doubt.